Welcome to the SPE podcast, powered by the Society of Petroleum Engineers. You're listening to SPE Live, Hydrogen in Action, today's use cases and what we might see by 2050. The audio from this episode was previously recorded on May 28th, 2025.
Welcome to SPE Live, Hydrogen in Action, today's use cases and what we might see by 2050. My name is Ibrahim Muritala. I am the Global Hydrogen Leader at ABS Global Sustainability Center here in Houston, and I'll be your moderator for today. Today, SPE Live will last 30 minutes. We encourage you to ask questions in the chat during the program. It is now my pleasure to introduce our guests. First, Magdi Hali. Magdi Hali is a senior engineer and certified executive coach with over 20 years of experience in energy transition and low-carbon hydrogen. He currently serves as Technical Development Manager at XRG, where he leads initiatives in hydrogen, ammonia, and CCUS. He played a key role in the world's first certified blue ammonia shipment for the UAE from the UAE to Japan. With over 70,000 online students and a senior certification from the ICF, Magdi is passionate about advancing sustainability and mentoring future energy leaders. My second guest is Colin Hall. Colin has over 20 years of experience in engineering, cryogenics, and hydrogen with a specialty in liquid hydrogen infrastructure. Throughout his career, Colin has contributed significantly to accelerating hydrogen infrastructure systems through commissioning of liquid dispensers, the development of patented liquid hydrogen pumps, and transformation of liquid hydrogen refueling station. His infrastructure experience spanned across several Asian hydrogen companies and industry leaders such as Linde Plug Power and the likes. Magdi and Colin, welcome to SPE Live.
Good morning, thank you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you.
So, I will start with Magdi. And I believe it's important to set the ball rolling. So, Magdi, from your perspective, what are the most promising cases, or let's say use cases for hydrogen today? And which sector sees the fastest adoption? Over to you, Magdi.
Yeah. Thanks, Ibrahim. I think this is the low carbon hydrogen. And first of all, thanks for hosting us in this, I think, important period for the low carbon hydrogen, where there is a lot of areas and also development happening globally in the value chain of producing low carbon hydrogen. I think if you take one snapshot on the low carbon hydrogen, what's happening today. First of all, today, as we speak, there is about 100 million ton of hydrogen, gray hydrogen, I would say, already used in the industry. And I'm here referring to existing refinery application used as a feedstock for producing ammonia as a part of the filterizer that will be used as for the end-use application for the agriculture and others, in addition to the other use of the hydrogen in other chemicals. And this is immediately can be converted into a low-carbon hydrogen opportunity to decarbonize such a sector. I think the most beneficiary sector that will start benefiting from the low carbon hydrogen, especially the what we call it hard to abate sectors. Those sectors are really need the hydrogen, which today playing a role. For example, we can touch on a refinery sector that use hydrogen today in the typical cracking and in the desulfurization operation in the front end. And this will be a big beneficiary from receiving low carbon hydrogen in order to reduce the footprint of the product. The second also sector that we can think of could be the maritime sector. I think recently we have seen the maritime sector, based on the International Maritime Organization, asking the sector to have a roadmap to decarbonize itself. And we believe what they call it net zero or near zero fuels, including the low carbon hydrogen carriers like the low carbon ammonia, can play a definite role there. And we have seen international organizations like DNV, they have developed scenarios. One of the scenarios, they call it ammonia scenario, where the ammonia can play a significant role, the low carbon one, derived by the low carbon hydrogen. So if you convert this into numbers, just I will play one sector for you, which is the shipment sector or maritime sector. Today, the maritime sector using about 300 million ton of fuel oil, which is the low sulfur fuel oil as a fuel. And if you converted just 20% of this one using low carbon ammonia, we're talking about a demand of more than 150 million ton per annum. And this is, if you know that the total annual production of the gray ammonia as we speak is only 150. So it looks like we need to double this figure to meet the demand of just one sector. And this for sure will ask for further development or further scaling up in the value chain of the production of the low carbon hydrogen. One of the other sectors also we started to see is the power generation. So the low carbon hydrogen also can play a role in decarbonizing the existing power generation. Those are very high level views about that, and we can deep dive into more detail in the coming questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Magdi. Thank you for that. And I'll go to Kulin. From your own perspective, what are the key technologies or innovations that are driving the cost reduction and scalability of hydrogen application?
Right, thank you. So the technologies that are driving the cost reductions and scalability, first of all, it's the improvement in fuel cell technology, more efficient fuel cell technologies. There's some companies recently that have extended the range of fuel cells for vehicles. Also, you have internal combustion engines that are going to be implemented for hydrogen to run off of hydrogen. So I think that that's going to contribute to cost reduction and more scalability for heavy-duty vehicles and vehicles and medium-duty vehicles. Additionally, we have a lot more reliable infrastructure that's being produced right now. So in the past, you've had some difficulties with compressors and pumps, and more recently, there's been more liquid hydrogen pumps that have been developed that are more reliable, have far less losses. Which then leads into my final point, which is the increased storage density. So what we really need to do to drive the cost down is to be able to store more hydrogen at the stations. And in order to do that, I believe that using liquid hydrogen is the best method for that. The issue with liquid hydrogen is that there's a lot of losses associated with liquid hydrogen, but improvements on the delivery methods using subcooled liquid hydrogen, as well as some of the more recent developments with zero loss hydrogen storage, I think is going to play a very big role in the coming years to be able to scale the infrastructure and really drive down the costs.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think we've talked about the sector, we've talked about the technologies that could help us look into how we can reduce costs. I will go back to Magdi. In terms of regional and national strategies, what regional or national strategy have been most effective in terms of accelerating the deployment? And are there lessons we can draw from early movers like the ones we've seen in Europe, like Germany, also in Asia, like Japan, and even the Namibia efforts that is going on hydrogen in Africa? So what do you say to this?
Yeah, I think this is very important because I think if you follow the history, this is also the starting point for such low carbon vertical, adding to the overall energy mix, need such a starting point or support until the market of the typical one became a liquid. And if you look at the strategy that you mentioned, you can categorize them into three groups. The first group is based on incentivizing the first movers by providing a support, because as Colin was mentioning, we need to work on cost effectiveness, and the cost effectiveness is linked to the scaling. So those two things are like the chicken and egg. We need to start having some sort of pilot, small scale, and the small scale will drive the scaling up, and the scaling up will drive the reduction of the cost effectiveness, and ultimately this will help the overall value chain to be developed. I think we can pick one example here. I think from perspective from Germany, for example, they have already started to show their investment in most of the regions, building the skeleton for the hydrogen pipeline. So this is part of the infrastructure. We have seen Japan also providing the auction to source a big amount of low carbon ammonia to decarbonize the power generation sector coming from coal. We have seen other initiatives like the IRA in the US. We have seen also the CBAM as a starting point. So all of these kind of ideas about developing that is coming into play. One of the other elements, which I can believe is a common denominator between all of that, is what they call it low carbon hydrogen clusters. So the cluster mean that this is the cell where most of the hydrogen will come together. All the elements will be bring together to achieve the cost effectiveness. And we have seen this is repeatedly in most of the GCC and I would say international low carbon hydrogen strategies, all focusing on building these kind of low carbon hydrogen clusters to drive effectiveness. And you can refer to any specific, let's say in Germany or from UE perspective or others published in the public domain. I really encourage the audience to look at this. They will find the cluster in the heart of driving the cost effectiveness of the low carbon hydrogen. From other also sectors, we touched on the marine in the beginning. If you look at the IMO, they mix it both. So they will incentivize the early movers like the low carbon hydrogen, and also they will penalize the latecomers. So the people who will keep using the fuel oil will be penalized based on a specific regime, and this money will be collected to support infrastructure building, incentivizing the early movers in the low carbon fuel utilization case. So I believe always people play with the same instrument, and this is exactly what happened in the low carbon, I would say in the LNG beginning. In the LNG also, it was impossible idea. Through clustering end to end, we managed to build it, and now the LNG became a vertical, part of the huge vertical in the low carbon, I would say, or typical energy vertical across countries. But before it was crazy idea, it was criticized. It doesn't make sense. Now it became one of the key elements in the energy as energy carriers. I think the hydrogen need to listen to learn from LNG, but in accelerated manner.
Yeah,
back to you.
Great. Yeah, great. Thank you. And I'll move to Kulin, and this has to do with some issues that relates to policy and the likes. Yes, what are the major bottlenecks? Technical, economic, or policy related that needs to be overcome for hydrogen to reach widespread use by 2050?
All right, thank you. So, in my opinion, I think the biggest bottleneck for this is the market. So, how do we drive the market? How do we build a larger market? And the only way to do that is to have a commodity pricing for hydrogen. We can't expect to expand a hydrogen market with the price per kilogram of hydrogen being $36, right? And that's what it is out in California right now. So how do we do that? We need to maybe instead of focusing so much on the colors of the hydrogen, maybe we focus on the carbon intensity of the hydrogen and how that's produced. We need to focus on what we're producing right now. As Magdi said, there's 100 million tons of hydrogen that's produced annually right now. And we can utilize that hydrogen, do some carbon capture, and then we can, have more commodity pricing. And frankly, it's up to, I think that the petroleum industry can certainly lead the way in doing that. Using electrolyzers is all well and good, but I think it's more specific to a certain geography. Because if you are trying to use electrolyzers in, say, California or some other area that the cost of electricity is exorbitant, I think that it's just going to be untenable to get the hydrogen at a relatively low price. There's been other issues as far as infrastructure but as I had mentioned before, I think that those issues are being resolved now with the boil off of hydrogen, of liquid hydrogen. That's been resolved. Trying to store more hydrogen, more dense forms, that's being resolved. We've got some pipelines going in Germany, as Magdi had said. So I think we're on a very good path. The key is to be able to reduce the price in that hydrogen.
Thank you, Colin. Yes, I think this provides us with a kind of similar question to Magdi, especially he has made mention of the issue of LNG that began as a kind of knowledge that helps to build that LNG market that we have today. So, which he has explained that possibly we might witness that with hydrogen. So, Magdi, from your own perspective, so what are the major bottlenecks in terms of technical, economic, or policy related that needs to be overcome for hydrogen to reach the widespread use by 2050?
Yeah, I think this is valid. I just will build on what Colin eloquently mentioned in the beginning. If you look at it from a typical liquid market development point of view, in order to have any commodity to be liquid, first of all, we need to have a unified definition of this kind of commodity between us. So in order to trade it between country X and as a supplier and country Y as a demand center, we need to agree on a definition, correct? We are talking about here the specification of the low carbon. I would say ammonia will play the ammonia role as a carrier for hydrogen for the sake of example. We need to define what CI, what carbon intensity that you will be expecting from my side. And if you remove the colors, because we can spend time talking about the typical colors of hydrogen and we will lost ourselves in what I mean by green and what you mean by blue and what the other group mean by yellow or orange or turquoise or whatever was the number. But I think even today in any typical fuel, even in the gasoline, when I'm sending gasoline between two countries, we have a specific terminology. What is the octane number of this gasoline, correct? So this is the specs that we will decide the purity, the level of cluster of the commerciality between us, the pricing tier. And based on that one, it'll be easy. We can mix, we can exchange this kind of commodity between us. So if you look at the hydrogen from that spectrum, in the last G7, I'll just give you an example. In the last G7, and those are the major countries has been producing a lot and mandated to be a role model in that domain. They agreed that they will remove the colors. They will talk about carbon intensity of the low carbon hydrogen and derivatives. They agreed to issue something, they call it hydrogen passport. The hydrogen passport is a unified identity, can define the source of the production, the CI, and enable you to mix and agree on some sort of simple methodology to agree the price. So for example, if you are making auction tomorrow in Germany and you are sourcing low carbon hydrogen in different carriers from different countries, you can decide the range between the CI that you are accepting and you leave it to the market to be able to compete, to bring the most cost-effective molecule to you. And this will give more freedom to the project to fly and go for the final investment decision and other element that we are looking for the supply chain. I think this level of flexibility that we are looking for in the last COP29, I think they will also discuss in the coming round. They agreed on unified methodology about life cycle assessment as a calculation. And this is also very important point, back to Colin's point of view. We need to agree how we calculate in order to have a unified and fair treatment for all the stakeholders. This is in a nutshell most of the things that come from the policy and regulation that can enable fast and effective development of the value chain.
Yeah, thank you. Then over to you, Colin. So moving from this, let's look at the challenges we are seeing around hydrogen safety, regulation, standardization, and how the industry is working to address them.
Right. So around safety regulations, some of the challenges associated with that. I honestly think that the ISO, NFPA, AIGA, CSA, all of those are working toward kind of a uniformed approach across the board to hydrogen installation and infrastructure. We've got similar setback distances. We've got similar codes of standards regarding safety around hydrogen. So I think that that's pretty well established. But I think that it really comes down to more of a localized level to educate the regional authorities as far as permitting, and there's really not a lot of knowledge base around hydrogen out there. Everything from the technicians all the way through to inspectors, and just across the board, we really need to have more education. To be able to encourage people to be more comfortable with it. Everybody's comfortable with natural gas, liquid natural gas, but that took a little bit of time. I think that now we need to really start getting more of a broad approach to educating the public on hydrogen, the safety of hydrogen, and the regulations.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Colin, for that. And yes, moving on. And for this question, I would come back to Magdi. That if we want to achieve this ambitious target of hydrogen by 2050, so what do you think the world will look like in terms of energy system, in terms of jobs, in terms of climate impact? So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think if you look at the ambition of scaling up the hydrogen today that they represent in the range of less than 2% of the overall to reach 18% or 20%, will look like we're talking about 10x scaling up. This is a challenge for the current infrastructure, and I think we need to play it smart. So we need to build on the existing infrastructure. I'm talking about the existing infrastructure from LNG, the existing infrastructure from a carrier. For example, if we are focusing on one carrier, which is ammonia. Ammonia today is a commodity transported between different countries or different continentals between 20 million ton per annum. We have more than 120 ports globally distributed well. So I think we have the right infrastructure to start with. We can scale that one by adding intermediate storage areas for the future demand. I believe also from workforce perspective, if you think about it, and this is one of the areas that I really encourage the current people listening to that. I think the people listening today, they should be part of the future workforce that will work to develop such a value chain. And we are talking about most of the analysis and report mentioning that we are talking about more than, 20 million jobs can be created above and beyond the value chain across from different roles, the production, the transportation, the end-use application, policy and regulation, and also trading, because there will be a certification. Digital certification will be part of the future certification methodology to give transparency and give the right comfort to the end user. So I believe there's a lot of opportunities and good enough news for the people also listening to us today. I think we have a transferable skill. So it is not really hard for people listening today from different background to adjust their skill set to be part of the future demand. And if, for example, the people coming from the background from LNG, they can easily adapt and take the additional skill to the one that they have in order to support the value chain of the low carbon hydrogen and carriers going forward. Same from the petroleum, they can play part of the reservoir and a cluster for storing hydrogen. So there is a lot of opportunities from the skill workforce perspective and also from the investment point of view, plus the technology like Colin was mentioning in the beginning. So I believe that this is a global opportunity. We need to look at it positive from that perspective. And on a personal level or in a country level, we need to start harnessing this kind of opportunity and think how we can be part of the future development.
Thank you, Magdi. Thank you for this. And I would also want to have the opportunity to inform our listeners to try to ask questions. So we have a question from the energy stream by Olusheyi Sharif Oluwabi. So what about steelmaking sector? So the sector is responsible for about 7% of the emission in the world today. So do we have anyone that wants to go for this?
Right. Yeah. So I know that the steelmaking sector is actually making a lot of inroads into reducing their carbon intensity by utilizing more and more electrolyzers in their hydrogen production. So I think that as they continue to have more incentives around that carbon intensity, reducing carbon intensity, I think more and more steel sectors will increase their production with more green or less carbon intensive production methods.
Okay, good. Thank you. Then another part of the question, why do you prefer liquid hydrogen storage over hydrogen pipeline delivery?
It's a good question. Thank you for that. The reason why I like liquid hydrogen storage over pipeline delivery, I think that the pipeline delivery can certainly be utilized, but when it comes to actually compressing the hydrogen at the site, I think that you'll be scaling up rapidly in a lot of compressors to try to meet the demand for mobile applications, right? So if you have a pipeline going to, say, a station, and that station is operating heavy-duty trucks, you'll have to really scale up tremendously with your compressed gaseous storage as well as your compressors. Whereas you can store, a very large amount of liquid hydrogen storage on site in a very small space. And then you can use a single pump or, have redundant pumps to pump, to compress up to 600 kilograms an hour in some cases at 900 bar. So that's the reason why I think that liquid hydrogen storage is preferable.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Colin. Magdi, how do you think the younger professionals position themselves for the career in the hydrogen, clean energy system, and the oil and gas sector? And what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think we also did some work on that one, and even myself as a mentor, I have been getting the pleasure to mentor a large number of people, and we are part of the Society of Petroleum Engineers also. We are developing a tool about the competency framework, and this framework will be used in order to guide the young professional, the people in the mid of their career, and the executive level, in order to enable them to get into the value chain of the energy transition, and also specifically for the low carbon hydrogen value chain. So we start with 4 steps. We start by assessing the current skills, by understanding what are the transferable skills that you as a young professional, based on your background, what is your study? Are you studying economics? Are you studying, technical like oil and gas, petroleum, chemical engineering, whatever was your background? We always have a common denominator by transferable skills that you can build on when you get into that one. And we typically provide a guidance by defining the skills based on the most suitable play for you. So you can play a role in the production, you can play a role in the transportation and infrastructure, you can play a role in the policy and the regulation and other elements of the supply chain, even the economics and finance. So each and every sector has minimum skills. We call it the core skills. You can easily get the core skills, whatever was the course that give you that. But you need, first of all, you define what are the major elements that each and every course need to cover. And this is what we are trying to provide. So in a nutshell, if just a simple thing that people can do very soon, this will be published in the Society of Petroleum Engineers after the committees and the leadership approval. But in a simple term, I think a simple gap analysis between the current value chain that you are familiar with and the low carbon hydrogen value chain and carriers can define for you, correct, what are the gaps. And I highly recommend that you start working in the gaps. We have a high demand on skilled people across the globe, not only a specific region, but this is a simple exercise. We can provide the support, or people can do themselves the exercise.
Thank you. Yeah, we have one more question from from LinkedIn. So from Ashwin Vel. So he's asking, where is the biggest market for hydrogen storage worldwide?
Magdi, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I think maybe also I asked Colin also to give you, but I was thinking about it. When you think about the hydrogen storage, first of all, what the hydrogen storage will do in the whole gameplay. Renewable has, especially the solar, has the 8 hour of the sunshine, correct, problem. And we're trying to have a continuity. We try to play it with the other renewable, like the wind and others. So we can easily build the large capacity of the solar, but we will suffer to store it until we reuse it again. So either we'll use the battery or you convert it into low carbon hydrogen where it can be stored and used again. Now, globally, we have seen a lot of places in Europe and other places in Australia and also in GCC, they have the potential by silent aquifers or depleted wells or the suitable, I would say, storage for that one can enable a huge amount of storage. So really, there is no one domain I can really tell you it is became the dominant, but we have the huge potential across the global. If this is the right answer from my perspective. Colin, if you want to add something, please.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You know, there's no one particular sector that I think that has that I can really pinpoint as far as having larger amounts of storage. But I would say that for individual use cases, there's I believe it's Mitsubishi Heavy Industries has some turbines that they're experimenting with for hydrogen, and they have underground storage, in caverns and aquifers, like you're saying, Magdi, and that stores a massive amount of hydrogen there. When it comes to mobility applications, I think that transporting it with ammonia is fine, on maritime applications, but then storing it in liquid form is probably best at the local levels, right? But yeah, I think that there's many applications for storage that are available currently, and those markets are going to continue to grow.
Thank you. So I'll take that for your final thoughts, and I think maybe in less than a minute. So your final thoughts, Magdi and Colin. So just a final thoughts in less than a minute.
Yeah, I think if you look at this very quickly, I think we mentioned today that hydrogen exists in a gray form today, or the let's say that with emission of carbon. I think we have a huge potential to decarbonize the sector. Already use the hydrogen and add the hydrogen as a carrier to decarbonize other sectors. And we need to collaborate. I think the key element about collaboration, coming together, leave the sensitivity around about the source, be pragmatic, get the lesson learned from the LNG, accelerate the development, use this as an opportunity to have more job opportunities and facility for other young professional in the field. This will be a great opportunity. If we come together, we can do fantastic things.
Thank you. So, Colin?
Right. Yeah. So as I was mentioning earlier, I think that in order to really drive this market, we need to get more commodity pricing for hydrogen. I think the petroleum industry can certainly lead the way. And I don't think it's a far stretch for the petroleum industry that's already working in natural gas to be able to convert a lot of their technicians, a lot of their employees to over to hydrogen. Just a little bit more training, and I think that would then you could certainly facilitate that. With the improved infrastructure, the zero loss liquid hydrogen, the increased pumps, the increased efficiency of fuel cells and the internal combustion engines. The only thing standing in our way is the price of the hydrogen. So I think that we can certainly make some huge impacts over the coming years. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. So thank you, Magdi. Thank you, Colin. And thank you for the questions and comments from the participants. And thank you for joining us today. So we'll see you next time on SPE Live. Bye-bye from our end.
Thanks for listening to the SPE Live podcast. For more content, visit the SPE Energy Stream, the industry's digital pulse, at streaming.spe.org. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe and review. Join us next time on the SPE Live podcast.